Hello everyone. Razorblade Mango here. So this video is just gonna be a little more raw, off the cuff, even by my standards. I literally have no notes in front of me right now as I'm recording this. I'm just staring at the Concord SteamDB numbers right now, just so I can get my I can get an accurate read on where it is right now at the time of recording this. So I just wanted to, you know what this is. I just feel compelled to talk about this whole thing because it's just, I find this situation just to be fascinating. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if the title of this video wasn't a dead giveaway, I'm talking about the, I think, undeniably catastrophic launch of PlayStation's most recent live service, which came out last week, Concord, which is developed by one of their newest acquisitions, Firewalk Studios. And I think part of the reason I want to do this so raw is just to kind of get across like how baffled I am by this whole situation and the events that led up to it. This to me is almost like the complete opposite of a lightning in a bottle situation, where there are just some games that where all the right wires crossed in all the right places, and they had the right people and the right job at the right time, and it just made something incredible. And then you have the opposite of that, where it is just wrong thing, wrong time, wrong people, wrong team backing it, wrong business sense, wrong financial sense. I mean, it's just, and it creates this perfect storm of failure. And it's just, I just, my God, I've been doing this channel for over 10 years now. And I'm struggling to recall a game that failed to the extent and the scale that this did. I really am struggling to think of one. Even compare this to some of the worst, most like high profile, embarrassing cautionary tale live service failures that have come out over the last, over this channel's existence. I mean, you look at stuff like Battleborn, Lawbreakers, Redfall, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and those, by all metrics, like almost every metric, were still more successful than fucking Concord. And this to me is just, this is one of those situations where it's such a catastrophic failure that this is the kind of failure that would kill a studio. I mean, you look at Arcane Austin. I mean, they released fucking Redfall, which I think is a much worse game than Concord from what I've played of both of them. And that was just such a bomb that it made Microsoft go, we need to cut this fucking studio. They need to go. Not just we need to downsize, not just we need to lay off and we'll try again. No, this studio's got to fucking go. And Concord did worse than that. Just I just want you all to let that sink in. Another stat that I want to throw your guys' way is that it's not an uncommon thing if you go on SteamDB and you look at the concurrent player counts. It hasn't even been a week since this game has been out publicly for everybody, not just the early access thing. But it's already hitting, at times, double-digit numbers on Steam. I've seen it drop to like 95, 96, 97 players at some point. And yes, they're not peak hours, they're off hours, but This is a game that is less than a week old. It is a multiplayer only game that is less than a week old that was published by one of the biggest names in console gaming, PlayStation, that was marketed like multiple times over the past few months, ever since it was, officially unveiled at the May State of Play this year. And it's already hitting double-digit numbers at some point. That should not be happening. That should not be happening for something like this. So, I have to just wonder, is this going to kill Firewalk? And at this point, honestly, I just think Firewalk's got to go. I never advocate for the death of studios, but this is one of those cases where I just think that their acquisition was just a bad decision in general. But just there have been a lot of people saying, well, it's such a shame because the team over at Firewalk are so talented. I'm like, are they? Like, I hate to sound like an asshole, but are they? Are they that talented to where you would want to keep them around? Because I don't see it. I don't see PlayStation caliber talent in this studio. And I've said this before that I think buying them was just a panic acquisition. I think even if they hadn't acquired them, I think Firewalk's got to go. Because fundamentally, this studio is just it's not built on solid ground at all, because the people behind the scenes that are at the top levels at Firewalk that decided that this is the kind of game that needed to be made and for how long it was in development. I know that one developer stupidly said that, like, oh, this has been a game 8 years in the making. I would argue it's probably more like, as far as active development, I would say it's probably more like 5, maybe 6. But that is still an ungodly amount of time for a live service like this. Especially one that is as trend chasing as Concord is, where it's so obvious, like it's thirsty to rip off Overwatch. It is desperate to ape the iconography and humor of Guardians of the Galaxy. Someone at Firewalk at the top, and this is before I even get into PlayStation, because I got fucking bars for them. This is before, this is the people at Firewalk that are making the fucking thing, that are the that creatively have the say so, and this is what they chose to make. That's a problem. That's a huge motherfucking problem. And I just, man, I'm speechless. I'm just speechless. Like thinking about this, thinking about all the steps that it took to get to this point, and all just the number of bad decisions that was at every step of the way, both big and small, and that we got to this point. It just blows my mind. I'm like a stutterer when I think about this game, because it's like, it's just, it's like almost every element of the situation is just bad. It's just ill-conceived. It's ill-timed. It was ill-made, and it was released to a market and a people, a fan base that it's like, did nobody at Firewalk or PlayStation understand the creative and business realities of the world that they were launching this thing into? I mean, did nobody at Firewalk or PlayStation kind of raise their hand, or somebody that was in a position of power raise their hand and go, hey, this is probably a bad idea? And where the fuck were Bungie in all this? Didn't PlayStation acquire those assholes to give them feedback and kind of point the way on the live service initiative that they're doing? Where the fuck was Bungie in all this, telling them, hey, this concept with this gameplay, with this price? Nah, that ain't it, my guy. They were able to go in and influence the death. And look, Bungie absolutely influenced the death of Factions 2. I think that's undeniable at this point. But regardless of what, how to an extent they had in the final say-so, as far as Factions 2 living or dying, they influenced it. These motherfuckers couldn't have come in and influenced the shutdown of this thing too? I don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, you don't. And this is where we get into PlayStation, where this whole live service endeavor. The analogy that I want to make is that PlayStation for a long time. So imagine PlayStation for a long time has been this really successful Italian restaurant in a block that mainly serves Mexican food. And they're successful at it. They make really great Italian food. They cater to a specific market that, maybe does enjoy the occasional Mexican food on the side, but when they want Italian food, oh man, they don't even bother to make a frozen meal. They don't bother to go out of town to somewhere else. They come to your restaurant. You've spent years cultivating this loyal customer base. But then all of a sudden, there's a new manager at this Italian restaurant. And he starts to look around at the other Mexican joints and go, hey, they're making more money than we are. How can we get some of that money? And they do things like put more Mexican food on the menu, or they start hiring more cooks that have less expertise in Italian food and less, more experience with Mexican food. And they start to kind of go, hey, we're still Italian food, but we're going to start rearranging some things on the menu where we're not always going to have the specific ingredients for this Italian food, but we'll have Mexican food. And the Mexican food is mostly bad. Maybe one good thing on the menu, i.e. Helldivers 2. But it's like you're trying to hard pivot from a customer base that is there for a specific thing. And then it's telling them, yeah, you'll get this specific thing, but less so. Meanwhile, here's this other thing. The analogy isn't perfect. I'm working without fucking notes here, people, but you get my point. PlayStation have cultivated a loyal customer base. People like me, a hardcore player base, that expects a specific kind of niche thing from them. Where, yes, despite my criticisms of how they've financially handled some of their big single-player games, this is what I'm here for. I'm not here for your fucking hero shooter or your fucking heist PvP shooter or your fucking extraction hero shooter or your mobile games. I am not here for that. I am here for things like Astrobot. I am here for things like Returnal. I am here for things like God of War. So who does this help? Just this big pivot into this live service thing. Clearly not PlayStation, because despite the success of Helldivers 2, and even then, that's got its own problems that's had its own problems crop up in the long term. What has this live service initiative produced that's been positive? It's just been one embarrassing public failure after another. It's like a Congo line of fuck-ups, this whole thing. So, I just can't, and this to me puts like a big black mark on Herman Hulst right out of the gate as his tenure as the software leader as far as PlayStation goes, because he publicly looked at this and went, oh yeah, this is really good. They're making something that builds a multiplayer experience in special and innovative ways. He looked at this generic fucking dreck and said to himself, wow, not only is this so good that we want PlayStation to publish this in a second party capacity, we want to upgrade. We want to put the fucking ring on their finger and buy them and make it a first party game. Well, Mr. Holes, you have on your hands maybe the biggest high-profile first-party failure in PlayStation history in the form of Concord. There have been worse games released, than Concord, which I've publicly, I can very easily rattle off games that I have liked less from PlayStation than Concord. Hell, from this generation, I could list them off. But as far as financial failures, as far as how much fucking stupid amount of money they put into this game, it doesn't even come close. And again, this is a problem that they took on willingly. They took it on. This is not a second party team where they can kind of just wipe their fucking hands of it and go, okay, see ya. Ready at dawn. Order 1886 failed. Just wipe their hands. See ya. What is it? The Lucid that made fucking Destruction All-Stars that flopped? Wipe our hands of it. See ya. You got acquired by Tencent. Doesn't bother us. Going to work for Sea of Thieves. Doesn't bother us. Whatever. We don't need you. It should have been the same thing with Firewalk. They never should have put that fucking ring on their finger. They never should have bought them. They never should have given them more power. And it's just a disaster. It's just a fucking This is like the fucking Hindenburg right now for PlayStation, because I can't even imagine how much money was spent on this. It had to have at least been in the 100 million region, with not only making the fucking game, with the amount of money they put into those like useless motion capture performances. They put all this money into like marketing, making these trailers and paying these streamers to play it for sponsored ads and fucking making those cel shaded animated shorts. And also now that secret level show from Amazon, they have a whole episode dedicated to Concord now. So that they had to throw some money that fucking way to get that done for some reason. And then that's not even including buying the studio outright, paying for the headcount there, going to be continuing to pay for the headcount there while they like screech along the road for the roadmap that they put out for this thing. That's probably going to be cut down in half. So I would say 100 million easily overall has been spent on Concord. And it's probably sold, I'll be generous and say maybe 2,500 to 25,000 to 30,000 copies at this point. Some of the Steam, third party sites that track sales data, they estimate it's maybe about like, at the very highest, if they're being generous, it's about like 15,000, 14,000 sales on PC. If we add a little bit more from that for PlayStation, Epic, let's be generous and say that this thing has sold 35,000 copies right now. And that's me being extremely generous. So 35,000. And let's assume everybody has bought the fucking $60 deluxe edition. I know that's not true, but let's just, for numbers' sake, let's just say that. So you take the $60 purchase, multiply that by 35,000, they made a profit, without, Steam and Epic taking their cut of it, they made a profit of about $2.1 million in my hypothetical scenario. $100 million plus budget, $2.1 million in profit, hypothetically. And they don't have any kind of fucking microtransactions or shop set up for this thing yet, not until October, and I really doubt that's going to do anything for them, but yeah, this is bad. This is so, like, bad. I don't even think bad puts in, like, can really do justice to, like, what a disaster this game is. This is going to shake Sony to its core as far as this whole live service initiative. This isn't just a failure. This is like this is just what's less than a failure? A catastrophe? A flaming wreck of a catastrophe. And again, I want to repeat this again to really emphasize how horrible this whole thing has gone. It hasn't even been out a week. And on PC, the platform that PlayStation is aping to chase at this point with these live services, double-digit numbers at off hours. Had a fewer peak concurrent player count than fucking Lawbreakers, Battleborn, Redfall you had to spend $70 on, by the way. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Lord of the Rings Gollum. Fucking hentai games have had higher peak concurrent players than this. Fucking Sex with Hitler has had a higher peak concurrent count than Concord. Fucking Sex with Hitler. A hentai game where you bone Hitler in his ass. Where you come on girls wearing Nazi outfits. Had a higher peak concurrent player count than Concord. Even me saying those words out loud, I can't believe it. It's unbelievable to me. So, my final thing that I want to say in this video is that what happens now? What would I do, I guess, in this situation is the more important question. Or what can they do? And I've seen people say things like, even before launch, that's like, oh, you need to make it free to play. You need to add PvE content. And I'm going to stand by what I said in my Concord is screwed video and say that there is nothing they should do. Just let this thing die with what microscopic amount of dignity it has left. Just shut it down. Just get to maybe the first season. And if there isn't any kind of meaningful change by that first season when they've added the fucking cash shop into it, make it free to play. I don't know, shut it down. Just shut the fucking thing down. Just not only shut down this game, they need to shut down Firewalk. Shut down Firewalk, and I'm going to take it even a step further because I think, and this is my opinion, but feel free to disagree, but this is my opinion that PlayStation has absolutely no business being in this live service thing. And I think it's because their instincts are inherently bad. Their instincts on a ground level basis are horrible when it comes to modern live services. They got fucking lucky with Helldivers 2. And even that has come with its own set of problems post-launch, like I've said. But I would just go, if I were Herman Hulse, I would kill off Concord. I would shut down Firewalk, and I would go multiple steps further. I would fucking cancel Fair Games because it's going to have the same fate as Concord. I'm calling it now. This is going to have the same fucking fate as Concord. Maybe it might be a little bit better because there aren't many like PvP heist shooters out there, and because Payday 3 bombed pretty badly, there might be some kind of small niche for it, but it's still not going to do well. It's like, you're releasing, you're hawking another Mexican food item at an Italian restaurant. It's the thing your customers aren't there for. I would cancel fucking Fair Games. I would maybe dramatically scale back Haven so they're a support studio, because I know they're making AI and cloud-based technology. If PlayStation wants to dabble in that, just have them be around as some kind of tech support studio in Montreal. Keep it there. I would shut down that Neon Koi studio they're doing for the mobile game. I would cancel that project, shut it down. I would do a serious reevaluation of this live service initiative. Seriously. Like I would do a like scorched earth approach to this. And this sounds dramatic. It's like, well, this sounds pretty dramatic coming from like one failure of a game. Let me remind you that studios have gotten just ass blasted out the fucking like window for failures that made more money and had more players than Concord did. And this is a game that had a major amount of financial investment in. $100 million plus. If you thought fucking heads are gonna roll at PlayStation for the cancellation of The Last of Us Factions 2, which would have been a bigger success than this, by the way, PlayStation, what the fuck do you think is gonna happen with a failure like this? They can't just sweep this under the rug. They can't hide the numbers like they could with some of their past failures, like Drawn to Death and Destruction All-Stars. Can't do it. It's on PC. It's publicly available for everybody. You take the good and the bad with being on PC. And this is where the bad part starts to come in, where people can publicly see and track how your game is doing. And it is bad. It is a bad situation. This is the Hindenburg at PlayStation right now. So, thankfully we have Astrobot in a few weeks. So the loyal hardcore player base will get something that is more akin to what they want. And I speak, from a personal perspective as well, is that fucking Astrobot is like a waterfall in a desert right now. And I'm not going to be thinking about Concord while I'm playing Astrobot. I'm going to be having too much damn fun playing it. But as far as the business side of PlayStation, this is just... I can't even imagine what's going on inside like Firewalk or Sony right now when they look at Concord and how it's doing. I don't think they will learn the right lessons from this because they're just going to be so fucking greedy and they're just going to still try. They're still going to try to throw shit at the wall to see what sticks. I don't think they're going to cancel Fair Games. I don't think they're going to cancel that mobile game that they've been working on for a few years now that's been in development hell. Again, that's another fucking thing with they're doing. It's like, just fundamentally, PlayStation has absolutely no idea what the fuck they're doing as far as live services. It's just like, it's exhausting to watch at this point. PlayStation might as well have just live streamed themselves setting a giant bonfire of money on fire. That probably would have made more money for them than some of these live services or what they've been doing, or the money that's been lost with some of these cancellations. They have fucking Concord just shitting itself at launch. It's just, man, wow. I hope this video conveyed just the shock that I feel looking at this. And this just, and again, like the last thing that I want to say is just, Concord is not a bad game. Despite everything I've said, Concord is not a bad game. I've played it. Not the release version. I played the beta. I played both betas. I tried it. It's just mediocre. It's just... hatred is not what killed Concord. Pure apathy is what killed Concord. Nobody cared. Or at least a number of people of any kind of significant, number did not care. And I think this will go down as maybe the biggest financial first-party failure in PlayStation history. Unless something comes out a few years from now that's even worse than this, which I wouldn't put it past them considering how fucking shit they are at live services. So, anyway, I man, uh, I'm just dumbfounded. I'm hardly ever just astounded by anything that happens in the video game industry as far as like the financial failure of a game. I mean, even like Kill the Justice League, I'm like, yeah, like those numbers, they don't surprise me. Yeah, the numbers of Redfall don't surprise me. This did. It couldn't even get above 700 concurrent players at its peak. I just don't see Firewalk being around for much longer. I mean, I hate to like kick them while they're down, but they just should not be around anymore if they're gonna make things like this. Just, and I didn't even mention the stupidity behind the visual design of Concord. That's a whole nother thing, but that's for it's for another time. I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. I hope you all enjoyed listening to this. Hope you used it as maybe some kind of podcast or something on your way to work. Anyway, I hope you all have a much lovelier day than the developers at Firewalk probably are right now. So, yeah. Thank God for Astrobot, man. We got that in what, like less than 2 weeks now. Oh my God, this nightmare can't be over soon enough. I'll see you all next time. Bye.